I'm Sally Hurme, and I started attending Emmanuel way back in the 1960s when I was a student at Stewart Hall. We'd march across Frederick Street, not necessarily two by two, but in a steady stream, and take up the first rows of pews for the service. And we also returned every evening for evening prayer. We had no choice as to whether we were going to come to these two Sunday services, but it was what was expected of us. At the same time, my then boyfriend and now husband was a cadet at Augusta Military Academy. We had very unusual dating opportunities. But one of the strangest opportunities is that Art, with a bunch of other AMA cadets, would sneak away from Fort Defiance and come to Emmanuel. I'm not quite sure whether they were coming for the service or whether they were coming to watch the ladies. But in any event, they had the choice to come to Emmanuel, even though it certainly was not anticipated or expected. When my husband and I both retired from our federal jobs in Washington, D.C., we decided to move down here to Bridgewater so that we could be closer to our daughter and grandkids. And obviously, of course, there was no question. The very first thing we were going to do would be to come to Emmanuel. It was our choice, and it was what we expected. Over the past few weeks, we have been celebrating Mother's Day and Father's Day. They may be occasions where there are ties or funny cards or special family get-togethers or phone calls to distant mothers or fathers or remembrance of deceased parents and other loved ones. But these two holidays bring to mind the commandment to honor your mother and your father. We go from that point to wondering whether you have knowledge, sufficient knowledge, of what your parents, your mother or your father, what their wishes and preferences are. Have you had that conversation with them? In many circumstances, it is family members are going to have the need to carry out the wishes of their loved one, whether it may be a medical decision or a financial decision or even a decision about how the individual where the individual is going to live and what happens to their property and their body after their death. I've written a number of books to help engage people in that conversation. Perhaps think of it as a Kickstarter. One of those books is called Checklist for My Family. It is a place where you can gather together information about your wishes, about your family history, about your medical history, about your financial details, about your wishes for how you want to be cared for during the last years of your life, and how you want your personal possessions to be distributed after your death. These are things that are sometimes hard to talk about, but I really encourage you to keep in mind whether you are the parent or whether you are the child or siblings. You need to keep in mind that to be able to honor your mother and your father, you need to know what their wishes are. And if you don't know what your wishes are, now is the time to work through perhaps some of my checklists to figure out what it is that you do want. If someone doesn't know your wishes, they cannot carry them out. Knowing those wishes, you can rest assured that the people that you have selected to make decisions for you know what you want and are going to be able to honor you the way you wish to be honored. A number of other books that I have written are along the same line, and one of them is Checklists for Family Survivors. This also helps you pull together all of the information that you need to know when someone in your family has passed away. If they haven't done checklists for my family, you can use Checklists for Family Survivors to bring together that information that you need to know to be able to honor their last wishes, such as their plans for their funeral and their burial. The other checklist book that I've written is Checklists for Family Caregivers. And this one aids those who are taking care of a loved one in, again, what are the legal implications? What do you need to know to be able to make decisions for someone else, whether they're financial decisions or personal decisions? And then my more recent books are Get the Most Out of Retirement. This book helps you figure out just what it is that you need to know to be able to successfully retire, and gives tips and guidance as to how to stay active and pursue your passions, whatever those might be, after you have retired from your day-to-day job. And then finally, Wise Moves. Wise Moves guides you through all of the various decision points that you should keep in mind when you're deciding whether and where you want to move, particularly after retirement. What are the different options and what are the legal things that you need to know about the difference between assisted living, senior living, CCRCs, nursing homes, community villages. Many options are out there, and I sort of walk you through what you need to know about each of the various opportunities, including what you need to do if you're planning on aging in place to make sure that your place will age with you. If any of you, I'm leaving copies of these books here in the library at Emmanuel for your reference. And if you have any questions about any of my books, please don't hesitate to get in touch with me. My email is sallyhurme1@gmail.com, and also my phone number is in the church directory. And thank you very much for listening in.